Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law. I hope you are having a great day for what we are going to call the GDP live stream part 2 in the hope that we keep monetization. Let's see how long this works out. Joining me for today's stream is everyone's favorite Tactical Bra. Say hello, Tactical.
Hello, hello.
Yes. So last time we did this stream, we were reading as much of the 187 pages as we could. We got to page 48 and my voice gave out. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a brief recap of the factual background, and then we're just going to pick up where we left off on page 48. So here is basically what happened according to the first 48 pages of it. There was a company called GDP. They wanted to entice people to engage in certain adult videos, and they wanted to do it under fraudulent pretenses. So what they did is they put out ads. They put them on Craigslist, and I think they might have also done flyers and other distribution channels. And these flyers and ads and Craigslist posts all said, become a model, we're looking for talent, go to this website. And the websites they had were not their principal website. They were websites that were essentially manufactured to look like normal, routine, clothing, kind of modeling websites. Nothing scandalous, just, routine kind of fashion stuff. And so then the girls would contact the company, and they would have some text messages and phone calls. Sometime during the phone calls or text messages or whatever, they would reveal the actual nature of the videos they wanted to do as adult content.
Importantly, they didn't say the words pornography. They would just say adult.
Yes, they probably didn't use that the P word to avoid. Yes, they probably didn't. But at least as far as I understand it, by the time the girls boarded the planes, they understood the nature of the videos they'd be shooting. However, they were misled into other material respects. Most notably, they were being misled in the nature of the distribution. So the company was saying these videos were being produced for an anonymous to them foreign collector in Europe or Australia, for limited distribution DVD, and it would never go on the internet. And this was a major selling point that they repeated basically multiple times throughout the interaction. And the girls would ask repeatedly if this was factually true, and every time they would say it is true. And even more so, they said you can talk to other women who have been involved in this for validation.
And this is really important. So one of the big things that stops women from engaging in sex, especially casual sex, is the idea of risk. And so they are going to hold the person proposing the sex in more, like they're going to be more scrutinizing of that. They're going to be a little bit more skeptical. But to have a third party then weigh in and say, oh, no, it's fine. I know this person. We place far too much value on personal stories. So if I were to tell you, 5% of people who took this drug had this side effect, you might think if I take this drug, I'm very unlikely to have this side effect, unless you know someone who has it, who had that side effect, in which case you're like, well, I can't take that because Joe had that side effect. So we value the individual anecdotes more than we should. And so instead of being as scrutinizing and as skeptical as maybe would be prudent, as soon as you have an anecdote that says, no, this is fine, this is fun, I feel good, that alleviates your fears quite a bit. And I mean, these women were being offered a lot of money. I think they wanted to believe that it would be okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, the idea of testimonials as validation is used in advertising all the time, even people we don't know at all. You know, you see an infomercial, particularly it seems for like diet or weight loss related things, where it's like, you know, my name is Joe and I'm from Tuscaloosa and I lost 20 pounds. And so, like, the fact that it's a personal story is meaningful. And possibly like those ads, and definitely in this situation, some of those people may not actually exist. So in this story, a lot of these people, some of these people were former participants as models, and some of the people were just plain made up. They just paid people to say they were and lied. In either case, like, they're being paid to give a manufactured testimonial. And so
And
the scheme to defraud by the means of the fraud is the inducement in engaging in it, where that was the problem. So anyways, after they had these conversations, they would fly out to the shooting location, which was in a nice hotel room. The company would hold on to the return ticket until they engaged in the activities, and perhaps even more disturbingly than anything we've discussed so far, they wouldn't discuss any of the legal terms or any of the contractual terms until right before the shoot, and they offered the women who were engaging in it both drugs and alcohol to dull their senses, and so that is also what we would qualify as a legal problem.
so there's a couple strategies that to me were well thought out in order to pressure these women into this situation. So this is high pressure sales tactics that are being used in conjunction with sex, and also being used in conjunction. You know, unfortunately, there's a stigma around doing porn, and this can follow women around for a long time. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. So you have, not only do you have this like false testimonial thing that's going on, but you also have, they would sometimes buy the tickets before the women consented, and it creates a sense of obligation, and it creates the sense of, like we were talking about before, reciprocity, that, well, they've already spent money on me, so now I need to do something to earn that money. And sometimes they would take the women out shopping or out for food beforehand. And this is very much like we see a soft version of this in dating. You know, you buy the woman some drinks and she feels obligated to talk to you for 15 minutes until she's done her drink, right? You have women who, when they started to like ghost the recruiters were constantly calling and texting. So they were like guilting these women into continuing with this business relationship. When the women would come and they were promised higher amounts of money, the men would then neg them, which is a pickup artist term for when you insult a woman in order to get her to desire your approval. And so by saying, well, we were going to pay you such and such amount, but you have cellulite or whatever, so you're actually worth $1,000 less. This creates an emotional need in the woman in which she wants to prove how sexy she is. She wants to prove that she's worth the higher value. You have other high pressure techniques that are being used. And the reason why they need high pressure techniques is because they are explicitly going after women that have no experience in porn. So they have that naive, I don't know better kind of thing. And they're also going after, so they need to convince women that normally wouldn't actively seek out adult work on their own. And they have no intention of going into a porn career. So this is supposed to be a one and done shot. That is their selling point. So they are not getting the usual class of women that want to make a good 4 or 5 year career out of this, where they want this to be their primary source of income. So they have to use more deceptive tactics because the women are coming into it with less willingness to begin with.
Yeah. So the case that we're dealing with is the civil lawsuit. There has since been, I think it was the day after this decision came down, there's been an indictment of at least some of these people for sex trafficking from the federal government. So there's an ongoing criminal case, as I understand it, as well. But here we're on the civil case. And the issue is that we're trying to decide at the moment is the validity of the contract that they signed. And the court has decided, because we're reviewing the court decision, that these women were all fraudulently induced. And we discussed this a little bit last time as well. When it comes to contract and fraud, there's two kinds of fraud. There's fraud in the inducement and fraud in fact. Fraud in the inducement is I'm tricking you into the contract. Fraud in fact is that I'm giving you one thing and claiming that it's another. So this is fraud in the inducement. It's not fraud in fact because they knew the nature of the videos they would be doing. It's fraud in the inducement because they were induced into the contract under these fraudulent pretenses. And so therefore that nullifies the contract, and therefore some award of damages is due. And we are reviewing the individual case. So last time we covered the first 48 pages of this decision, where we covered all the factual background about how they treated the women in general. So we discussed last time the general scheme. They put out these ads, they were for generic modeling, they would put high pressure on them, they'd offer them a lot of money, they'd fly them out but not give them a return ticket. They would get them intoxicated. They'd only give them the contract at the last minute, like right before they're planning to shoot. And it contains complex legal language, and they're signing things not knowing what's happening, and so forth and so on. So the women were tricked into engagement on this, and so therefore the contracts are void. As a result, some money is due. So do you have anything more to say on sort of the introduction, factual background, recap portion of this before we get into reading more, Tactical?
I'm good so far.
Okay, very good. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to pick up at page 48. If you want, you can watch the stream from last time, and we're just going to read, and Tactical will stay with us as long as she can, and we'll see how we're going. So we are picking up with Jane Doe number 2, which is where we left off. And as always, Tactical, feel free to interrupt me at any time.
Of course.
After responding to a Craigslist ad for modeling in early 2015, Jane Doe 2 received a stock email. Jane Doe 2 testified that when she spoke on the phone, I asked him numerous times if anyone would know, if it was private, and he reassured me many times I have nothing to worry about. Jonathan told Jane Doe the video would be distributed on DVD overseas. He never mentioned online distribution or the website. She was told it was for a private buyer. Jonathan asked for photographs, so she sent him some pictures without showing her face. Jane Doe 2 received contact information from 3 references. This goes to what we were saying earlier about how they were engaging women to also deceive these women. She spoke to one of the references who assured her, I didn't have to worry about it in terms of my concern about where the videos would go and who would see it and my privacy. She did not contact the other 2 references, but she was reassured by the fact that he had provided so many. In person, when Jane Doe asked both Jonathan and Isaac, the videographer, about distribution, they said not to worry about it, and they've already taken care of it. They already talked about it. Prior to the shoot and prior to receiving paperwork, Jane Doe 2 inhaled secondary marijuana smoke. However, she believes she was not intoxicated. When Garcia presented her with documents to sign, Jane Doe 2 attempted to read them, but they were not very clear and able to be understood. She testified that when she asked for time to read the release, they just rushed me and told me we already went over it and to sign it. Jane Doe 2 asked about the script when they handed her a paper, but simply instructed her to read it to camera. And as we discussed last time, this script basically said, I'm consenting to this. This is my own free choice. I'm not intoxicated, so forth and so on, was basically what it said. Based on defendants' representations, Jane Doe 2 filmed 2 videos, both of which were later published online. Garcia reached out asking her to do a 3rd video, but she did not respond. Jane Doe 2 testified definitively she would not have filmed the videos if she had known defendants owned and operated a website and the videos would be public. When she learned the video was online from her boyfriend at the time, and that must have been one hell of a conversation, Jane Doe 2 was scared and anxious. Soon thereafter, she learned that everyone at her job knew about the video and people were gossiping. She stopped going to work without giving notice. Many people from her high school who learned about the video called her derogatory names, and she lost friends as a result. Her family found out a bit about the video, and even they have lost friends as a result. Jane Doe 2 received harassment through social media, including many unwanted pictures of random guys and their privates. Nice. People have used the video to blackmail her, threatening to spread the video to family, friends, and boyfriends if she did not do something for them. Jane Doe 2 attempted to change her appearance because she's afraid of going out and being recognized. She testified she isolated herself and avoided interactions. She has experienced severe pain and panic attacks which still occur today. The court finds Jane Doe to be credible. Jane Doe number 3. Jane Doe number 3 was 19 years old and attending college in San Diego when she received an email from defendants in that fall saying they saw her profile on Explore Talent and asking her to fill out an application on beginmodeling.com, which is one of these fake websites they set up to entice them into looking like it's generic modeling before, the truth came out. That's part of the deception. Thereafter, she received a stalk email. She did not respond until 2014 when she was behind on her rent and in danger of eviction. When Jane Doe 3 and Jonathan spoke on the phone, he told her this was going to be exclusively on DVD in South America and my name would never be associated with it. He assured me it would not be on the internet. Jane Doe 3 exchanged text messages with reference models who confirmed the video was completely anonymous and a comfortable experience. She testified this communication helped solidify my decision and made Jonathan seem more trustworthy. Jane Doe 3 met Jonathan and Ben at an apartment on Market Street before they drove together to a hotel to shoot the video. In a hotel room prior, Jane Doe 3 asked Pratt about distribution twice, specifically whether it was going to be on DVD in South America. He assured her it's definitely going to be and not to worry about it. Jane Doe 3 trusted defendants because they offered up a lot of information. They reassured me on mobile occasions it wasn't going to be online. When Ben gave Jane Doe 3 documents to sign, he told her it was basically going over everything they agreed upon and she could pick a stage name. While she was signing, Pratt distracted her by filming an interview asking her personal questions. Yeah, so this was another thing that we saw in the factual background. So even when they gave her the documents, even after inducing her to drink and take drugs to weaken her, she's being asked to read very complicated legal documents, they're distracting her by asking her a lot of personal interview questions. Now, I couldn't do this. If you gave me a complete legal document and you're also asking me to have a completely separate conversation to what I'm reading, I can't do it. If we were having a conversation about something in the case, then probably I could do it both at the same time because they're all part of the same universe. So I can have a conversation about one aspect of the case and read this document probably at the same time. That I can probably do. But if you're asking me to have a conversation that's completely irrelevant to the issue at hand and read this complex legal document, I can't do that. That's asking my brain to split in too many directions at once. It's overloading me, and I'm sure that's exactly what happened to these girls and exactly why they were doing it. It's overloading them so they can't comprehend what they're reading.
And there are 2 psychological factors at play here. So one is the hurry up and just sign the thing. Because they're saying okay, we're moving on to the next step, which is starting to film you. So they're not giving adequate time for her to address this as the only thing. They're like, here, just sign this and we'll already start before you sign it, which makes it feel very perfunctory. The second thing that's happening is that they're also asking personal questions. So they're not asking her to hurry up and put on the appropriate clothes. They're not asking her to, hurry up and get your makeup done. They're saying, hurry up because we're asking you to form an emotional relationship with us. We're asking you to disclose personal information to gain a sense of intimacy between us. And so there is, and when you talk about yourself with someone else, you want that other person to like you, right? Because you're being a little bit vulnerable in that sense. You want them to think positively about you. And so that, again, doubles this, I want to be a good performer for you, so I'm going to go ahead and sign this. Please like me.
That's very valid. Yeah, I agree with all that stuff. It's like this, the psychological pressures that you're referring to are real and not to be ignored. And so the high pressure nature of it is very concerning in these circumstances. During the interview, Pratt asked Jane Doe about her prior experiences and relationships. Believing no one would ever see the video, she shared personal information about herself as well as other people she would not have shared if she'd known the video was destined for the internet. Jane Doe 3 testified she would have not have shot the video had she known it would be online. Jane Doe 3 learned of the video was online in July 2014 when her manager, I assume at work, pulled her aside while she was at work and told her of the video that was going around. She is humiliated and had what she learned would later be her first panic attack. She withdrew from a group of co-workers whom she socialized with frequently. Soon thereafter, her friends from school discovered the video. A friend of a friend attempted to blackmail her into having relations with him by threatening the video if she did not accept his advances. Nice. Jane Doe 3 and her boyfriend at the time eventually broke up because of the video. He constantly bring it up, and we're never really able to move on. Yeah, I would imagine that would be hard for a relationship. If I found out that my love had engaged in this activity, I don't think it would end well for our relationship either. No. She ultimately moved to Florida for a fresh start, and because San Diego was tainted for her after the video came out. Jane Doe 3, her friends, family members, and current boyfriend are all harassed on social media. So at least she found someone new. So good for her. Now, more than 5 years later, she received comments and messages and still impacted emotionally from them. I gotta wonder, like, what's that like for the current boyfriend? I gotta wonder, like, how does that work exactly when you've seen your girlfriend in all these, like, whatever? Do you try to, like, how does that work in the boudoir? Do you try to replicate it? Do you try to? I mean, I just have lots of, like, practical interaction questions with this, so I don't know how that works.
Well, I know sex workers who are married or, have partners or whatever, and usually the partners are just okay with it. That either it's something that's in the past or it's something that they know is ongoing, and it's the form of income, and it's like how they support the household, and it's part of. You wouldn't judge the person if they went and took care of somebody else's kids, so you don't really judge them when they go and take care of somebody else's sexual needs. It's just a different perspective.
Okay. Maybe it's my more Puritan upbringing or whatever, but I'm having a hard time intellectually agreeing, or no, that's exactly the wrong word, or maybe it's exactly the right word. I'm having a hard time agreeing with what you're saying, because somehow my mind is saying this is different for some reason. So, yeah. But fair enough. Jane Doe 3 believes the release of the video has impacted her long-term mental health. She continues to experience acute anxiety that more people learn about the video, seems probable. Along with elevated anxiety generally, she has panic attacks, which she never had before the video. She's concerned her 13-year-old brother or his friends will discover the video. That's guaranteed. She was concerned the video will eventually affect her ability to go to medical school, and she can't even think about a family. The court finds Jane Doe 3 to be credible. Yeah. Liberty Cause says there are some people who can't separate sex from emotion, and they're the ones who lead somewhat normal lives outside the industry. Oh, who can separate it. Okay, I understand. All right, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know that I'm one of those people, but fair enough. Jane Doe 4 was a 20-year-old unemployed student living in North Carolina when she saw a Craigslist ad for modeling that directed her to bubblegumcasting.com. Again, one of these fake websites as part of the scheme to defraud. On the website, Jane Doe 4 saw and watched 3 videos depicting just girls in regular tank tops. They seemed very happy. Prior to flying to San Diego, Jane Doe 4 communicated with the people via email, text, phone call, and FaceTime. They told her it was only going to be sent to a DVD store in Australia. My name wouldn't be attached. No one would ever know. They said it wouldn't go on the internet. Defendants offered Jane Doe 4 contact information for a reference model, but she didn't contact her because she didn't want anyone else to know what I was doing. Just the offer made me feel a bit more comfortable. Liberty Cause says, working in the entertainment industry, I've met people from every aspect of it. That is interesting, Liberty Cause. Perhaps we could have a more in-depth discussion about that sometime, because I would appreciate further insights. Obviously, I'm acting out of a place where I don't have knowledge, and I'm a person who craves knowledge. I love learning about stuff. So, anything I can add to my knowledge reservoir to make me smarter, make me more well-educated is great. Because, for example, Tactical was talking to me earlier about a study in which men and women would go up to random strangers and ask them questions up to and including, would you like to have sex with me? And I was like, I remember that study. I've read that study, So it's like, I feel good having education that I'm like, I can talk to you intelligently about this because I know what you're talking about. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. So maybe we can talk sometime and you can educate me, and then I'll feel warm and fuzzy inside because I have more knowledge than I did, and I won't be such an idiot anymore. Not being stupid is always a plus. When Jane Doe 4 asked about distribution again in the car, defendant continued to reassure her. Upon arriving in the hotel room, Pratt gave Jane Doe 4 approximately 5 to 6 beverages from the minibar, that's 5 to 6 mini bottles. That's quite a bit of alcohol, because a mini bottle has, about 2 shots or a little bit more than that in a mini bottle? So it's actually quite a lot of alcohol.
Between 1 and 2, yeah.
Is it 2, 2.5, something like that?
I don't think it tops 2. But then again, it also depends on the mini bottle, because it could be all sorts of sizes.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Jane Doe put a stack of money and a piece of paper on the desk for Jane Doe 4 to sign. She counted the money, which was $2,000, the amount she was promised. When she was asked why I needed to sign anything, they told me just to prove that I was 18, just reiterated what they already told me about distribution. She attempted to read the documents, but found it in difficult or intoxicated state. If I drunk this much, I would find it difficult too. If being buzzed and being able to read legal documents is my daily life. Haha, because I'm a lawyer and this is part of my life. Being completely blissed out my mind to read legal documents, no, that's asking a lot. She did not recall reading the script into the camera, and she appeared intoxicated in the video. Always discouraging. And you're also thinking about criminal liability at that point. If a person is too intoxicated to consent, that raises criminal issues too now, doesn't it?
Especially if you are purposefully getting them intoxicated in order to consent to things that they normally would not consent to. So there's, in my mind, the criminal intent is a little bit different between like, oh, I met a girl at a bar and we were talking and then we go back to hers, versus there's a girl, I'm worried that she's going to say no, so I'm going to give her as much alcohol as possible until she says yes. There's like a coercive element there that I would say leads more to criminal intent.
Fair enough. I appreciate the distinction, because it does show planning and methodology as opposed to more of a accidental occurrence. But yeah, fair enough. As the activity concluded, defendant left abruptly, and feeling upset, Jane Doe 4 left the room. When she returned, most of the money they had given her was gone. There was an envelope of money which contained a few 20s and a stack of ones totaling $400. Well, that's bad. That's theft. It's her money. She earned it in every possible sense. So that's wrong. Since the defendant was the only person with a key, she believes he took the money. Yeah, makes sense. If it were like a random, if it were like a random person, why wouldn't they take all the money, right? The fact they only took some of the money does somewhat more imply one of the defendants as opposed to a random person, at least to me. Yeah. Yeah, 1 to 1.25. So 1.7 is almost 2 shots. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, 1 to 1.5. I've seen 1.5 shots. So it's somewhere between 1 and 1.5 and 2 shots, depending on how we're counting. But yes, it's a lot of alcohol. Let's see. Jane Doe 4 discovered the video had been released online about 2 months after the shoot, when her friend informed her that the video was circulating throughout her college campus and neighborhood campus. I bet it was. Jane Doe 4 immediately sent an email to the website begging them to take it down, saying, "I never authorized it to be put online. I was told it would be sent on DVD in Australia," and asking for her contract. She described the harassment and her desperation. She threatened legal action, but she never received a response. Jane Doe 4 was forced to transfer school to another state. Upon starting school, Jane Doe 4 joined a sorority, but she was kicked out 3 weeks later because someone found the video. The video spread quickly and soon received text and social media messages, especially on the school message board. One of her roommates posted a message saying, "My roommate is a star," and played the video over speakers in the house so that she would hear it. Oh man,
Oh God.
Someone vandalized her car by painting "male member" on the windows. Soon, people from her hometown in New Jersey discovered the video when someone posted it on her high school Facebook page. Both her immediate and extended family found out. When her mother and father found out, she felt as if she completely failed as a daughter. It was her worst nightmare. Although her parents have been very supportive, her extended family has not been so forgiving. She no longer has much of a relationship with her extended family and avoids family gatherings. Yeah, again, I don't know what it says about my character, and if people want to judge me negatively for it, then so be it. But if I found out that my daughter was engaged in this activity, I don't know that it would end well for our relationship. I don't know if that makes me a horrible person, but...
Now, would that be because of the nature of the activity, or would that be because you know the stigma that goes around the activity and you don't want her exposed to the stigma?
More the former. Yeah.
See, I don't see a large difference between having sex and having sex with the camera on. I think that the difference that I place on it is because other people see it as different. So other people create a stigma where they're using it for bullying, where they're using it to reduce someone's place in society. And that, to me, I find more injustice in that. I judge the bulliers harder than the people who have sex in front of a camera, because a lot of people watch porn. So if you're watching porn and enjoying porn, but you think that it's bad to do porn, I find that there's a contradiction there. So you want porn to be available, and you want people who are beautiful and who are who have the personality that you want displayed. You want them to do the porn, as long as they are the only ones, like as long as there's no consequences for you and they take all of the consequences. And I don't know, that feels weird. I would rather just there be fewer consequences for doing porn. Like, I think
fair
that
enough. I mean, you make some reasonable points there, and it is probably hypocrisy or something, or a double standard, or at least, to say, I want the content to exist, but I don't want to be my daughter who does it. Like, how can I necessarily hold both those thoughts in my head at the same time? So your commentary is appreciated. And so, you know, if it's a weakness of character, then maybe it is, because I can't reconcile those views. But I don't know. Maybe it's just part of, I don't know. It's just like you, I got nothing. I got nothing. Your view is more sound. It's more logically coherent. So I can admit to the own failings of my own views because it's not coherent. So I have no response. Jane Doe 4 has continued to be harassed. People who recognize me from the video, if they see me, people call me names. They take pictures of me. The video has impacted romantic relationships. And further into the double standards thing, it probably would not bother me as much if my son was engaged in the activity. So yes, it's also a sexist, duplicitous standard. So that's just extra evidence for my own whatever. So, you know, in the spirit of trying to be honest about my own shortcomings. Yeah. The person she was dating at the time was harassed and ridiculed. Another boyfriend broke up with her specifically because they learned about the video. After the video was released, Jane Doe 4 was ridiculed for her body, so she started making herself bulimic to lose weight. Is that the right word, bulimic?
Yep.
Okay. Jane Doe 4 testified that emotionally she's not the same person anymore. She experienced deliberate anxiety, depression, paranoia, fear, and anxiety as a result of the video. She has trouble focusing and trusting people. She's cried thousands of times over the video, and she's had not a full night's sleep since it was released. She sought medical treatment from her doctor, a psychiatrist, and a therapist. The court finds her to be credible. You know. I'll just read a few comments. How much have you missed? About 6 pages worth. Cody Sam says, as a parent, my kids can do what they want. I just worry about making decisions that could impact them, including stigma. Okay, fair enough. Liberty Cause says it's just another form of entertainment. It's made taboo. So the stigma was essentially created. Could be. Newt says, I'd like to think I'd be okay, but who knows how I'd react. Yeah, I think that's true even for me, right? Because I'm speculating about a relationship with a person who doesn't exist and how I would feel in a future hypothetical. So who knows how I would really react in the real world? Maybe I wouldn't react that way. You know? Liberty Cause says, when we look at how other countries view it, we find America is an island. Yeah, that's very true, Liberty Cause. If you go over to Europe and see how they treat it, or South America, it's treated much differently. It doesn't have the stigma, and I probably would feel much differently. So we can blame the Puritans for at least some of this. Cody says, hey, you're a product of your environment. Admitting it shaped you, hold views you don't think are unbiased is a good thing. You're taking steps in the right direction. Yeah, well, thank you, Cody. You know, I try to be as honest a broker as I can, including as honest a broker I can about my own limitations and my own shortcomings. I try to be self-reflective. Now, obviously, there are limits to that because, you know, trying to be objective about yourself is inherently a problem because you're inherently viewing it through your own biases and lenses. But I try, man. I try to be honest. I try to be honest about, like, my opinion, try to be honest about my knowledge, try to be honest about what I think, and try to be honest, like, yeah, this probably doesn't make sense. This is probably double standard. This probably is not defensible on a going from first principles viewpoint. So, like, you know, unless I want to go where, like, there seemed to be, like, a tick recently, and I don't know where exactly this came from, but at least in conservative media, because I watch a lot of conservative media, as you might expect, relatively recently, in, like, November-ish, there was a renewed debate in conservative media circles about whether or not pornography should be allowed to exist. Now, this debate, like, as far as I can tell, has not really been a debate in conservative circles for quite a long time. I mean, it used to be a debate for sure, and it's even a debate in left-leaning circles. You know, there are a lot of, you know, lest I put out, there are even left-leaning people, feminists, who are against this kind of material. So it isn't necessarily a purely right-leaning view, because there are left-leaning people who are against this too. I've known some personally who are very against it because they find it exploitive, for example. Or as the conservatives find it wrong because it's moral reasons. So the right wing finds it wrong because of moral reasons. The left wing finds it immoral because it's exploitive and not equitable, to the extent they find it wrong. But yeah, this was a debate recently that popped up out of nowhere. It's like the conservative whether or not it should exist.
Yeah, left-wing analysis can also find it not ideal because it's commercializing something that should not be commercialized according to their morality. That there is something about human connection that is more honorable, or more, I don't want to call righteous because that involves like a religious thing, but there is something sacred about those emotional connections and relationships. And so it's, by commercializing it, you're cheapening it, and you're creating, so before you said exploitation, which we think of people doing things against their will, but then there's also the fact that you're now turning something into a commodity, and it's turning people's bodies into a commodity, which is a little bit too close to slavery, or it degrades your innate humanness or stuff like that. So you can also get left-wing arguments like that.
An anti-capitalist too from left wing.
Yes.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So it's not just the right wing that has a problem with this. Everyone has a problem with it for different reasons, I guess. I'm not sure why it became a debate recently the right way, but for those of you who are not right wing and don't follow right wing media, for some reason, this became a debate like a couple months ago where they're like debating this, and I'm not sure why, but just an item of note. Seems to have died off a little bit now, but I'm not sure why this flared up recently. But okay. Jane Doe of 5 was 17 years old and living alone in Florida when she first communicated with defendants about doing the videos after responding to a modeling ad on Craigslist. In an email, Jane Doe 5 asked Jonathan whether he could provide any clips or anything from the company's work. Which, you know, that's, if the answer to that question is yes, I can provide you the clips, then it defies the underlying I'm going to keep your video not electronically distributed, right? It can't be both at the same time. I can't send you an email of a clip and say, oh, by the way, I'm keeping your stuff off the internet. That doesn't make sense. Jonathan said, I'm going over everything in precise detail. It's more direct and professional as their number. And the fact that a lot of this communication is happening on the phone further is evidence of a scheme to defraud, because we don't want it in writing, because having things in writings is not great for, legal things. So we want it to be, a phone conversation. So there's not a written record. So when they're saying, let's take it on email, or take it off email and take it into the phone, one of the reasons is probably specifically because they don't want there to be a record. So I'm noting.
Yeah, because, and I use this phrase carefully, it becomes a he said, she said situation rather than a documented agreement. Yeah.
Yeah. When she spoke to him on the phone, Jonathan explained the videos were for a private collector and no one else would ever see it. He further stated the video would be sent in a sealed envelope and he was legally contracted not to redistribute the video or produce the video they're making. Jonathan told her name and information would never be released, which made her feel more confident. Jonathan told him it would not be on the internet and never mentioned the website. Jane Doe 5 spoke with a reference model named Haley, who assured her that everything was safe, they weren't scammers, most importantly that never got back to her, never went online, and no one ever found out about it. Although she was only 17 at the time, defendants asked her to send nude photographs of herself, which also is triggering federal law for internet distribution of child. Well, it might not be CP, because that has a specific meaning. Just simply nude might be legal, but let's not analyze that question right now. Defendant
well,
booked.
I would say that because it's being sent for what will ultimately be sexual purposes, that's still they can still get nailed by the feds.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm not. Yeah, it's not encouraging. That's for sure. I would recommend that you not solicit or distribute nude photographs of anyone under the age of 18. I don't want to get into the finer points of whether that's legal or illegal in any particular circumstance. Just avoid the issue and don't do it at all. That would be great.
So we usually call this grooming.
Yeah.
And we usually, or trafficking, because the commercial aspects elevates it to trafficking.
Yeah. Let's see, where were we? Once in San Diego, Garcia invited Jane Doe 5 out to a club with his friends to celebrate her birthday when they're dancing and drinking. 18-year-old at a club being served alcohol. So the club isn't doing a real good job there, are they? The following day, Pratt purchased a birthday cake To use in the video to emphasize her age. Well, that's good news. That probably narrows it way down and try to figure out who Jane Doe 5 is, right? Probably not a lot of these videos feature a birthday cake, so that narrows that down. In the hotel room, Pratt instructed Jane Doe 5 to read the script, explaining that it was just something to say I was sober and not under the influence. They also gave her documents to sign and began rushing her. Jane Doe 5 testified, I told them I was sorry. I just want to make sure I was signing. And Michael told me, which is pretty much what I was saying, I wasn't sober and not under the influence. Garcia and Jane Doe smoked marijuana both together both the night before and after the shoot finished. Believing the representations, Jane Doe filmed 2 films, and before her videos were released, was paid to act as a reference for 3 to 4 models. So she was paid to lie to other people. After filming with defendants, but before they released the video, Jane Doe 5 participated in a film produced by Reality Kings as a background actor. She took off her clothes but did not engage in any acts because she knew the video was going to be released online and she didn't want that to be on the internet. Jane Doe 5 was considering doing a 3rd shoot when her boyfriend advised her to obtain a copy of the documents signed. Smart by the boyfriend. That is a really good suggestion. Obtain a copy of the documents you signed. Good suggestion.
So
good boyfriend.
They weren't automatically provided with a copy of the documents?
Yeah. She asked Pratt for a copy, and rather than complying, Pratt asked, what's the deal? You trying to F us over or something? And never sent the documents. That's a discouraging sign. If the party to the contract won't give you a copy of the contract, you have a problem. I'm just telling you, you have a problem. Soon thereafter, she learned her video was online on several sites and was devastated to find her name was listed in the comments and people she knew were commenting. Jane Doe 5 saw her name and links to her social media published on a website along with her episode number. She started getting, which apparently is exhibit number 241. So again, we could, for example, go to the court record, figure out what exhibit 241 is, and then we could pull the video and stream it on YouTube. Of course, only for the purposes of our legal analysis, which YouTube would have no objection to, I'm sure. Started getting bombarded with harassment. Angry, upset, she said, incidentally, I don't know if this stream has been demonetized or not, but I'm assuming it will be demonetized if it hasn't already. They're going to figure out what I'm talking about at some point if they haven't already demonetized it. So anyone who would like to contribute by donating a super chat, just saying, it would be appreciated. I'll cover it either way, but since I'm probably not going to get any revenue from this, because YouTube's going to figure out I'm talking about naughty things, even in a legal context, any support would be appreciated. Jane Doe 5 social media was flooded with comments from strangers and people she knew. They all just sending me nasty things, trying to solicit from me, sending me links and pictures and videos. Someone made a Facebook page with me with things on my face as the profile picture. Great. And where they would have discussions about the video, share their collages they were making. They're making collages. Very nice. Yeah. I will send you an email, a Lay or Liberty Cause. I saw your email. I will get back to you. Thank you. It will be fun to have a conversation about it. Good luck with the guitar thing. Her family learned about the video and refused to talk to her. Her mother received a Facebook message from a woman who shared a screenshot having sex with Garcia and commenting in Spanish, a comment which I will not repeat. Her mother was livid. After first saying she was mean things the people on the internet were saying, Jane Doe 5's younger sister, who was 12 to 14 at the time, was approached about the video many times, harassed and solicited on Facebook. Well, that's super encouraging. That's good news. Jane Doe 5 received harassing messages from an ex-boyfriend threatening to send the videos to her mother and her father on Christmas Day. Yeah. Her father later received links from multiple people. Emus the Fox says, Naughty Justice Blackleaf, $2. Thank you, Emus the Fox. Your super chat is appreciated. Even though she later changed her phone number due to harassment, people have still found it and called harasser as recently as 2 weeks before she testified in the trial. You know, one of these days I have to pay to get the transcripts or something, because I think that would be very informative. There's like 99 days of trial, though, and the transcripts are freaking outrageously expensive. So I don't know how I'm going to do that, but someday I'd like to get a copy of the transcripts. Maybe if you guys donate lots and lots and lots of money on Super Chat, I can afford the transcripts, which are very, very expensive because I think they're 50 cents a page. So, Eames the Fox, you've allowed me to buy 4 pages worth of content. Thank you.
Yeah,
the release of the video has profound impacts on mental health. Prior to the release, she never experienced anxiety. Since the video, she experiences anxiety daily and suffered more than 10 attacks. She's been very depressed and isolated herself from friends and family. She's prescribed a sedative, but struggles to sleep at night. Since the video's release, she sought treatment numerous times, been on Zoloft, Celexa, beta blockers, and Trazodone, which I've taken Trazodone, which is very helpful for sleep, but stopped taking antidepressants because they interfered with her work. People tell her she's developed a very unhealthy drinking habit. I bet she has. Overall, the video has done significant damage to her interpersonal relationships and professional life. Yeah, Evil Call Celeste says 50 cents a page for a 90-day trial. It's going to cost a small fortune. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I don't understand how people can so easily dehumanize another person. Like they are putting effort and going way out of their way in order to attack this person whose video they probably enjoyed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it is in large part and part of my own psychology on this. I think it's envy that it's not them. I think, you know, that they are not. It's anger that they're not the one. In large part. So, you know, as a person currently without a girlfriend, I feel that that's a relevant consideration. You know. So
I find the notion that if somebody, in my mind, what I believe is happening is that because of the stigma around doing porn, that, and I know I've demonetized you 8 times over, that people see it as a natural consequence that you're going to get bullied and tortured and harassed and blackmailed and all of this stuff. So when they go out of their way to perpetuate that, they are saying, well, this is the natural outcome. And it's like, no, you are choosing to make that outcome for that person. That's what's going on in my head, but I'm totally guessing because I don't, I'm not friends with or communicate.
I definitely think that there's a safety and crowds factor. I'll concede that point. I think that there is since a lot of other people are doing it, I can do this too without any repercussions to me. So it's like if it's the common, well, it's not that common a saying, but there is a saying that if everyone is guilty, no one's to blame. And so it's like, since everyone is going to be harassing, everyone's going to be blackmailing, I can do it too, and I'm not responsible. So there's definitely that. I'll concede that point. Cody Sams gives me $2, says, here's towards your own mini bottle. You'll need it. Yes, I will, Cody. Yes, I will. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat. She's many concerns about the future. What will happen when she gets married, whether she should have children, what is possible for her to have a successful career in academia. The court finds her to be credible. Jane Doe 6 was 18, finishing her freshman year of college in Louisiana, working 15 to 20 hours a week and living paycheck to paycheck when she responded to defendant's Craigslist ad for modeling. When she first received the email offering $5,000, she didn't respond. When they increased the offer twice to $7,000, apparently for one shoot with the option of doing a second, and told she could bring a friend, she responded. The offer to let her bring a friend and to let her talk to as many girls as possible made her feel more comfortable. Yeah. Over the phone, Jonathan explained the video would only be sold in DVD in Australia. It would never reach the internet, and her name would never be attached. When Jonathan sent her pictures, it looked like everything was promising. I mean, they had nice cars. The hotel rooms were very nice. It looked professional. The girls looked happy. They had money in their hands, smiling. They looked safe. Okay. Although Jane Doe 6 thought Jonathan seemed trustworthy, she had not made up her mind to do the video until she spoke to 2 reference models on the phone. The first, Amberlyn, who is Nord Clark, reassured Jane Doe 6 that defendant were truthful, and they in fact sent the videos to DVDs Australia, saying she shot them before and has never had a problem, and no one ever found out about it. The second reference also reassured her the video does not go on the internet. Jane Doe 6 decided to do the video after speaking with the references because they seemed really genuine. They assured me they never had any problems with it. It felt really good hearing from another woman that was filmed with them. They had never gotten harassment or it doesn't go on the internet, so it was a lot of reassurance. Upon arriving in San Diego, Jane Doe 6 continued to seek assurance. When Reva Yusuf picked her up from the airport, Jane Doe 6 told her she was really nervous about being there and having second thoughts. Yusuf was reassuring that everything is going to be okay. Just make your money. No one's ever going to know about it. And I kind of thought of her as a motherly figure, like she was very comforting and sweet, and I liked her. This reminds me a little bit of Epstein with, what was it? Was it Maxwell, who was the principal woman who was helping to reassure the women and was trafficking and all that stuff?
Yep.
Yeah, and so it reminds me a lot of that too, with getting a woman to act as an intermediate. And I don't know if it was Maxwell or not, but one of his secretaries or private secretaries, who was also female, was doing a lot of these roles, so getting females to act as part of the reassurance. So
yep. And we saw a little bit of that with Weinstein as well. From a forensic point of view, now I'm specifically referring to underage women, so it doesn't quite apply to all of these women, but it's that same sort of manipulation where you're lured in with promises of money, and we're going to treat you like a celebrity, and you're going to be talking to wealthy and powerful people. And so there's a little bit of glamour that's involved in all of this. And then you have women around, and women trust other women who reassure them that, like, this is going to be okay. Because one of the big things that stops you is that social consequences. So when you have a woman who is going to be sort of the most judgmental, say, oh no, nobody's going to judge you, that helps reassure that emotional part. And from a forensic point of view, a lot of the women who get arrested or prosecuted for crimes involving underage people, they are often doing it in connection with a male, and part of their job is to legitimize or to recruit. And so they end up having a commercial stake in the propagation of the abuse. And I see elements of that here, where the women have a commercial interest in having more women do these videos. And so and they're being chosen to do their job partially because they're women. And so this is very premeditated and very thought out.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. On the day of the shoot, Garcia offered Jane Doe 6 marijuana, but she refused. In the hotel room, cameraman had her do a tease before asking her to sign any documents or read the script. She did both wearing a robe after getting fully nude. On receiving the documents, Jane Doe 6 tried to read the documents, but found them confusing. I've read them. They're pretty confusing. I can understand them because I've been trained. I can't understand them, probably, while drunk and confused and being asked questions that are not relevant to what I'm reading. That's splitting my mind in two main directions at once. I can't do all those things at the same time. He's paraphrasing every section so I could understand. He said this paragraph just means no names are going to be used and everything's kept confidential. This paragraph means that we have the right to put it on DVD format in Australia. Jane Doe 6 believed Teddy because he was at that point the fifth person to assure her of the things she'd been promised. While she filled out the documents, Teddy filmed her and asked her questions, which was distracting. That's bad. Teddy also asked her to read the script into camera, which, as he explained, to show her that she was sober. No one forced her to be there, and she meant she was letting them distribute the video on DVD. Tactical, you think it's more messed up? Yeah, you think it's messed up that women can be exploiters as opposed to men? Men and women are equal, right? Why is it particularly messed up that women can be exploiters?
I said it's messed up, but women can be exploiters too, especially if they're being financially compensated. So I have more experience in the research for underage crimes, but financial component is a big thing that motivates a lot of women, or they are doing it for the love of a man. So they love a man who is interested in underage, and so they procure the underage girls in order to try to um, get that man's love and affection. So it's relational or commercial motivations for women more often. Now, I say more often, but that's of the cases that we know that are prosecuted, and that doesn't necessarily reflect what women are actually doing. That's just sort of what police are aware of. It is absolutely a myth that women can't be perpetrators or exploiters. They are often there helping facilitate things.
Okay. Jane Doe 6 learned of the video was online early August 2016 when someone from her high school texted her pictures. She's distraught and immediately started looking for ways to remove it. She quickly discovered the video on many free websites, including, and sent emails to all the websites she could find, begging them to take her video down. She did not try to contact Jonathan after the video was released because she was afraid of him and did not trust him. Instead, she contacted the email address listed on the website, begging them to remove the video and offering to purchase the rights because she was lied to, and the video was ruining her life to the point of being, The responses she sent were vague, taunting, and unhelpful. People from her high school, elementary, middle school, co-workers, and regulars at her work all found about it. Working as a waitress, customers and co-workers both confronted her about the video and watched it in her presence. Okay. Ultimately, she's forced to quit. Jane Doe 6 did not return to college that fall because she's not mentally stable enough to do so, which she attributes to the video's release online. Jane Doe 6's mother learned about the video when her friend's husband showed her a clip of the video. Nearly 1 year after the video was released, people from the town where she went to high school started finding out, and she received another wave of harassment. The video also affected her relationship with her boyfriend of 7 years. He still holds it over her head and brings it up in every argument, saying that nothing he did could be as bad as the video. Yeah. The release of the video online has changed her life significantly. She feels she's been in hiding. She cannot connect with or trust people. She avoids public setting because if someone recognizes her from the video, she has a panic attack. She is engaged in self-harm and attempted by overdosing on depression medication shortly after she discovered her video. When that attempt, she became angry with herself. Once she went to the hospital to try to get help as a prescription medication, but the staff tried to admit her to a mental hospital instead. She sought treatment for emotional distress. She's finally able to see a therapist when she got health insurance. She's been prescribed 4 different medications for depression, 1 to help her sleep, and another for anxiety. These measures have helped, but she continues to have thoughts to this day. The court finds her credible. Jane Doe 7's case is unique in that prior to receiving in San Diego, her communications with the defendant occurred through her friend Lindsay rather than directly. She never saw a Craigslist ad or an email from defendants. Instead, Lindsay spoke to defendants and convinced Jane Doe 7 to accompany her from Texas to San Diego for what she was told would be modeling for money based on representations made to Lindsay. Jane Doe 7 also didn't find out it was actually filming until she got there. So Jane Doe 7 really did bring a friend and suckered the friend into this too. What a great friend this is. Jane Doe 7 testified that Lindsay said verbatim what the defense were going to told her. It's going to be Australia, not the United States, and not online. Lindsay told Jane Doe that this information was that Matt gave to her. Jane Doe 7 testified that she and Lindsay took approximately 1 week to decide whether or not to do the shoot, and Lindsay was in contact with him every day and made it sound very reassuring. Soon after Lindsay and Jane Doe 7 arrived in San Diego, defendants began making representations, for the first time directly to Jane Doe, regarding the DVD's release in Australia. She remembers specifically telling defendants if anything was released in the United States or online that was accessible to friends or family, that would completely ruin my life. When Jane Doe 7 expressed her concerns about anonymity, on multiple occasions they both verbally assured her, you have nothing to worry about, it's not going to be online, it's not going to be in the US. Upon arriving in the hotel room and learning that the shoot involved what it did, Jane Doe 7 became scared, and although no one threatened her, she felt she was unable to leave. When Wolf gave her documents to sign, defendant did not give her a chance to read them and rushed her to sign by saying, "This is what we already talked about. You already know what's going to happen." Jane Doe 7 requested time to review, but Wolf said no. She asked Wolf one further time to confirm on video, which will only be sold in Australia, which he responded, "Yes, yes, yes, just sign, sign, sign." When she read the script, she was not concerned because she considered it in the context of representations already made to her. Jane Doe 7 testified that if she had known the video would be published online, she had not gone through with it but would have taken off running. During the shoot, Jane Doe 7 began bleeding and experienced pain. She testified that she went to the bathroom, locked the door, and told them, "I didn't want to do it anymore," but they knocked on the door and told her, "We've already paid you $2,000. You have to come do it. The bleeding will stop as soon as you start again." She eventually finished the video. That sounds potentially criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Continuing will not stop the bleeding. That's just medically inaccurate.
Well, it didn't say where she was bleeding from, but yeah, I don't, yeah, okay. Yeah. Jane Doe 7 learned the video was posted online from her friend who confronted her. The same day, she called Wolf and asked her about distribution, but hung up. She Googled bubblegum casting, found an email address, and sent an email asking the video be removed. Everyone at her job found out about it, which she knows because they make fun of me every single day. She's been bullied by too many people to count. She continues to be harassed and bullied at work. How many Jane Does are there? I forgot. How many 21 or 22? Something like that. Yeah, I forget if it's 21 or 22, but yeah, something like that. The video has impacted her personal relationship. Her boyfriend at the time came through the work at night saying, "I found something about your past as disgusting." She attributes their breakup to the video being published online. He never really got over the video or the fact that people knew about it and people were talking about it. When Jane Doe 7 acknowledges she has a history of anxiety, she testifies she's personally gone worse from 2015 to 18. In the last 3 or 4 years, she's been afraid to leave my house, afraid that people are talking about me constantly. No one wants to go out with me, date me, afraid of me not getting a job. In 2017, she stopped going to college because of anxiety and depression, which she attributes to the video and making it too difficult. Every day, leaving her house, driving, and going to work are very difficult. She also wanted to go to graduate school, but can't imagine that's happening now. Jane Doe 7 testified she's changed her appearance as much as possible, including her hair, teeth, lips, and tattoos to avoid people recognizing her. Jane Doe 7 finds this to be credible. Jane Doe 8 was attending graduate school in San Diego when she found out about the defendant's ad on Craigslist. Despite receiving a scholarship, she needed more money to cover living expenses. She responded to an email for modeling for email. When Jonathan sent the stack email for 2 adult shoots, she didn't respond because she had no interest. Jonathan increased the offer twice, but she didn't respond. Jane Doe's 8's financial situation became desperate, so she finally responded. When she and Jonathan spoke on the phone for 45 minutes to an hour, she explained the videos would not be online in the United States, they'd only be on DVDs overseas. He said she would be all done up so she wouldn't be recognizable, and the references would be able to confirm any fears or worries she might have. Never had any problems with anything going viral. The distribution plan sounded reasonable because my understanding was the videos would be in Australia and New Zealand, and I thought Australia has very strict censor laws around their internet. Okay, so I assume that's why they needed DVDs rather than being able to ask the plethora online. It's not China, man. Jane Doe 8 confirmed multiple times that a video would not be released online, which was extremely important. After seeing the pictures of prior models on the set, she found they were being truthful and felt safe. Jonathan texted her information for 2 to 3 references, but she felt if they were providing references and providing me all this information, I didn't have reason to not to believe what they were telling me. Based on Jonathan's assurances, Jane Doe 8 began to film the video. I will take a modest break here to say for the 23 of you who are currently watching concurrently, if you'd be so kind as to give this stream a like, I would appreciate it.
Done.
Just remember that you liking the stream is not the same thing as liking the underlying things that are happening. You're not validating any of this thing except me covering it. And you're also validating Tactical. Tactical also wants your likes.
Yay! I mean, I'm liking that these people might be held to account for the deceptive practices.
See, we can like that justice is being done to some degree. That's good. Let's see. Based on the assurances, they agreed to film a video for $1,500. On the day of the shoot, she met the guy in the apartment building. They didn't talk in detail, but they reassured her they were nice guys. They were not, in fact, nice guys. Jane Doe 8 declined the marijuana and the videographer were offering, but she did drink some wine that she brought with her. By the time the shoot began, she had finished the bottle of wine and felt tipsy. If you drank a whole bottle of wine, because these girls are pretty small girls. I mean, I wouldn't know, because I, of course, have not seen any of the videos. But from people who have seen them, they have described them as being fairly small girls, and I would imagine an entire bottle of alcohol might influence them. After changing locations, Garcia paid Jane Doe 8 in cash and presented the contracts, which she signed without reviewing because I didn't feel like I had time to. As that is being handed to me, I was reassured that everything in it was what we talked about via phone, so I didn't need to read what they had already promised because it made it seem like what was in here was what we talked about. Yeah. And they were very late to both shoots, so it was kind of under the premise of, we're running behind. Let's just go and sign this so we can get started. When Garcia presented her with the documents, stating, "This is everything we talked about, nothing to worry about, it's just protocol," Jane Doe 8 clarified this meant nothing would go online. Even after carefully reading the talent receipt at deposition, Jane Doe 8 stated, "There's nothing in here that strikes me as going against what they said, even where it says we can do as we please, saying how we use it however we feel fit. I mean, figuring what we discuss being online or overseas." That's not a wholly unreasonable thing. I, as a lawyer, know that this is falling into what we call the parole evidence rule. But to her, she probably doesn't know about the parole evidence rule, and so it doesn't strike her as contradictory. I understand completely. For those of you who want some legal commentary, the parole evidence rule is a rule that basically says you don't bring in oral representations into a written contract. The written contract governs, and you can't bring in discussions and oral representations into a contract to explain terms of the contract. The contract is what governs. So that is the parole evidence rule. You can't bring in external things into the contract. And like all good rules, it has exceptions, which we won't get into, but that's the rule.
And so they're trying to use that as a defense, as a shield against the misrepresentations.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. Yeah. Yeah. A noteworthy thing about Australia, if they recall correctly, they banned the sale of content locally, but it's legal to order from other places. Really? Okay. Reading the verbal script, Jane Doe believed that she's operating under the same agreement they had reassured her about. She asked Garcia if she should still read the portion about alcohol if she'd been drinking, and they said yes. During the interview, Garcia instructed her to act excited, flirty, and fun. She had to stop and reshoot several answers they didn't like. Jane Doe 8 returned for a second shoot, as nothing occurred during the first shoot given her concerns. She brought alcohol, and the defendants arrived 2 hours later, had 6 to 7 drinks while waiting for them. Again, Garcia offered her marijuana, and she declined. Garcia represented the documents were the same as the last time and rushed her to sign them. The videographer asked her to pretend to sign the documents on camera. In the video, her eyes are half open and shows signs of inebriation. Evil Coleslaw says now their country's on fire. Coincidence? Yeah, that's very funny. Evil Coleslaw. And Tactical's rejoinder is even funnier. You both get bonus points today, in my eyes. I don't know if Australia's tried that yet, but maybe, yeah. Ugh.
I know a couple people who are willing to contribute to the effort.
Man, all right. When defendant first released the video online, defendant Jane Doe 8 contemplated ending her existence multiple times because she thought she couldn't do that, even though the headlines would probably have something to do with videos. The week after the video was released, she called and texted a hotline. 3 years later, she still suffers from thoughts along these lines. Cody Sams. Oh, Cody. We can't have fun. We're just going to be super depressed. So let's have some fun as we're staring into the void. Jane Doe 8 has received limited harassment because as soon as she starts receiving messages from video, she immediately blocked her phone contacts and deactivated her social media. Neither her parents nor current employer know about the video, but she experiences severe anxiety that they will. It's amazing that her parents haven't found out about it. That's amazing. That's got to be awkward as hell, too. It's like, what's wrong, dear? Nothing.
They probably still use Internet Explorer, let's face it.
They're AOL people? Could be. In an effort to remove the video from websites, Jane Doe 8 sent a DMCA takedown request and listed the reason that it's not supposed to be online. The DMCA eventually responded the owners of the website wouldn't take it down because she didn't have rights. Yeah. In addition to depression she experienced multiple times, Jane Doe 8 has isolated herself and stopped being social. She describes her emotional distress from the video has manifested as such. I live in fear just because of this. I would say about every day of my family, about every day of my family finding out, about my employer finding out, friends I don't know yet finding out, my social circle being even further diminished. I've lost friends I've had for years. Every time my parents' phone rings, they sound confused on the phone. I think it must be something related to this, or they sent me a text, I need to call them. That's where my first thoughts go. Anytime my boss calls me into the office, I think, oh God, someone must have known. Even at work sometimes, if parents in her therapy practice are looking at me a little different, I think, oh my God, they must know. Jane Doe 8 commented that she believed the defendants impartial based on the belief no one would know, the company would know that they're defrauding people. The court finds Jane Doe 8 to be credible. Jane Doe number 9. When Jane Doe 9 responded to the email, she was struggling financially and didn't feel like she had many options. Her father had just had a double lung transplant, so she didn't want to ask her parents for help. In response, Jane Doe 9 received an email from Bubblegum Casting offering $2,500 to shoot a 25-minute video. The early iteration of the email stated, no names or personal information is used in our videos or given out to any third parties, period, and contained a link to bubblegumcasting.com for references from previous models who have worked from us. When she viewed the website, she saw videos of models wearing the casting shirts, talking about how comfortable they were. Jane Doe 9 responded asking, where will this go once it's finished in terms of site? If others' site could borrow it for film, I want this to be as confidential as possible. She testified at trial that she asked this question to ascertain whether it was going to be online and stated that if it was, she'd no longer be interested. On the phone with someone, she was told she's trying to become a teacher, so she needed to be confidential. The people stated it would be discreet and professional. The video would be distributed on DVD overseas if I choose to take that option. She told Matt the only way I'd be comfortable doing it, I don't want my name attached. He said that was completely understandable. Most of the girls request the same things, and was going overseas. I had no risk of that happening. After a few follow-up calls, Jane Doe 9 agreed to do the shoot. At the airport en route to San Diego, Jane Doe 9 felt nervous and called Matt for reassurance. He offered to connect her with reference models, but she opted against it because she didn't think it would be helpful. Ultimately, she agreed to film because she believed Matt was telling her the truth, that distribution was going overseas to Australia and my name was never going to be attached to it. I was certain of that, or else she wouldn't have flown there. Pratt picked up Jane Doe 9 from the airport and they drove to Garcia and then continued on to the hotel. As she prepared for the shoot, Pratt sat up, took a chair that she didn't want to see and pushed it against the door of the hotel room. Once she had her hair and makeup done, Matt hurried her to sign the release. So yeah, again, in case this wasn't clear, this is reemphasizing that the release is being given right before the moment, right? We've already given them alcohol, we've already given them drugs, we've already done all the makeup, we've already done all their hair. In some cases, they're already with clothing or sans clothing. And right before, it's like, please sign this complicated legal document while I distract you and talk about things that are unrelated to this. This is incredibly scummy. This is incredibly scummy. And I don't fault the decision here, for this. I don't know to what degree the girls, the only thing that sort of counters this to my mind is the degree to which, because they were sober at the time they got on the plane, presumably, or at least sober like on the way to the airport, and like at the time they knew what they were filming. And they all said, because we saw this in the first 48 pages, they're aware of the internet, they're aware of this kind of content being on the internet, They were the desire for this kind of internet. So it's like, to what degree was it really reasonable to think, well, this is going to remain secret indefinitely? Is my only counter. But like, because they were actively defrauded into this, that is kind of an irrelevant issue. So that makes sense. The problem with people is the whole, I want to do this, but I don't want anyone vaguely knowing about making it. Yeah. You have a single dislike? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to dislike this channel. If any of the GDP people are here and would like to participate in the chat, I'd be happy to interview you. So if any of the GDP people would like to speak on the record regarding their massive lawsuit, give me a call. I'll be happy to talk to you on the phone.
Yes, I'm sure they're defense attorneys, but also love for them to come on and talk to you.
I wasn't going to mention that part. This will be really good for your legal case, I'm sure. Once they finished the hair up, they hurried her to sign the model relief, explaining there was no need to read the documents because it was giving them permission to film as just a summary of the things we talked about. When she skimmed the document, it was very dense, but didn't see anything that caused her concern. When she was asked what to write for her stage name, Matt just say it should be her real name because it wasn't going to be necessary to have a stage name. Nice. Matt handed her a script, asked her to read to camera, quickly explaining that she was just giving them permission to film, and pressed play. As soon as she finished the script, Matt coached her through the interview, and then they began filming. After the shoot, Matt took Jane Doe back to his apartment for a solo shoot. Once there, she's asked to repeat the same process of signing documents and reading the script, which she did. Jane Doe 9 then returned home to Texas approximately 1 month later, learned the video was online when a high school acquaintance sent her the link. She immediately felt humiliated, betrayed, deceived, like her life was being ruined in that moment. She clicked on the link and saw not one of the videos online, but her name was already associated with it. Yeah. She immediately called the phone number she had for Matt, but went straight to voicemail. She continued calling until her number was blocked. Jane Doe 9 then went to Bubblegum casting website looking for contact information, but found none. She endured severe harassment in the months that followed. People called her left messages or contacted her on social media calling her offensive names. Someone sent a link to people at her hometown, a small town in Washington, and her parents found out about it. When Jane Doe 9 found a post on a former website containing her picture and quotes about her teaching philosophy from her professional LinkedIn page, she felt humiliated and exploited. She also found posts on multiple websites identifying her by name. Shortly thereafter, she was dismissed from her teaching job because faculty and students at her school learned about it. When the principal at our school, where in the principal's school she worked, sent her a copy of the article, which contained her picture and name, the name of school, and a caption saying she had no business working with school children unless she wants to teach them the fine art of having sex on camera. Oh, man.
I would argue that it is possible to have that be a fine art, but probably not to teach to school children.
She felt like the problem was only worsening instead of resolving. Upon learning the arc was the first search result on Google, for her name presumably, she immediately panicked and knew she'd have to seek legal counsel. She also learned that the principals and human resource personnel at her school received anonymous emails about the video stating she should not be working with students. She also received threatening emails through her publicly accessible school email about the video stating that they knew what was going on with the school district. Her text messages with the principal and school show her distressed and depressed state of mind. In the aftermath of losing the video, Jane Doe 9 began experiencing anxiety and panic attacks so severe she had to be hospitalized for anxiety and panic disorder and prescribed lorazepam. She hired an attorney who was able to negotiate a resolution which she thought would be the end of her contract. Jane Doe 9 moved to a new city because of the video and found another job in her chosen field in the new year. The faculty and staff at her new school had not learned about the video, but she's fearful every day they will. I'm afraid of losing my job every day. I'm fearful that, I'll get called down to the office. I don't know what for. I'm fearful the exact same thing is going to happen to me all over again. Immediately after finding the video on a website, Jane Doe 9 quickly sought ways to remove the video using a Google removal tool with no luck. She also sought help from reputation websites, which were just delete or suppress information, but none of these have yielded success. Jane Doe 9 is credible.
So I had one comment and then I have a legal question afterwards. I actually have something that I grapple with a lot is the line between your professional life and your personal life. And I actually have a moral objection to your job dictating your behavior when you're off the clock. That I think that if your behavior off the clock is legal, and it's sort of a protected behavior, then I have a harder time accepting professional consequences for that, such as being fired. And I I hate the idea that in order to get a job in your chosen field, you have to govern yourself as if you are working 24 hours a day. I think that that is asking too much, and I think it's an invasion of your privacy in a sense, in terms of you're not getting compensated for that, but you have to sell your private life and you have to abide in your private life by the terms of your contract. Sometimes what you do before you get a job can then affect whether or not you get a job, even if the two things are completely unrelated. And I have a hard time with that. I don't like it. I think that it's very moralistic and I think it's very totalitarian. And I struggle with that balance. And then my second question was, the judge frequently says that each witness is credible, and I was wondering whether that credibility statement is made per witness, where the witness is analyzed in a vacuum, or is that made within the context, like what they are saying fits with what everybody else is saying, therefore their narrative is also more credible?
Both. Yeah, both. Because this was a bench trial, right? This is a bench trial, so that's why the judge is doing this, because the judge is both determining the facts and the legal decision. So these are the statements of fact the judge is doing, like he's the jury, because he is for the purposes of this exercise. So he's going through each one and explaining why what evidence he was looking at and what he thought. And when he's saying, well, they're credible, the same way he's acting as a juror, essentially. So a juror can find a witness credible in whole or part or none, and they can base that in part based on what other people are testifying to. So you say, okay, well, I believe this witness or don't believe this witness. So both, it's being considered in the context of everything. He's the finder of fact, so he's considering everyone's testimony in the context of everyone else's testimony. Now, it's certainly possible that a person could sink their own credibility amongst themselves, right? A person could do something or say something that's like, well, they're just not credible. I don't believe that person, not because of it contradicts necessarily, but just
alcohol was an intoxicant, and then the judge
I just don't believe this person, and that's as you as the finder of fact get to make that decision. It's like, I just don't believe this person. So he's saying, well, I do believe these people. Okay. So, it's fine. As to your initial comment, I will, as to government actors, government employers, I will refer everyone who's watching this to a prior video on this channel, entitled Diary of a Sex Phone Worker. I think it was released in the last week, where this exact issue was being discussed in a different case. So there was a woman who was working for the National Guard. They found out about her work, they fired her, and the court decision was all about whether or not they can fire her from her government job for stuff that she did prior to her being employed. And so there's that aspect of it. So you can watch that video and learn a little bit more about when the government can and cannot fire people for things they do off the clock. Yeah. Jane Doe 10. San Diego resident met defendants through her friend, Caitlin McLean, who, having shot 2 videos, I don't know the degree to which it's good or not that, like, witnesses to this are being named. Is that good? I mean, it's the court mentioning it. So it's like, well, we know the name of one of the persons. She's not the Jane Doe. It's not one of the people suing. It's just a witness. but it's one of the people who shot videos. So it's like, we know her actual name because the court
Do
told me.
witnesses have a chance to file for them to be referred to as a Jane Doe?
Sure. Yes.
So if they were provided with an opportunity to request a redaction and then they did not take that opportunity, then nah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I do have a standing rule here. Extra loyal. It's one of the few rules on the channel that we don't degrade and insult people, especially within the chat. But as a general rule, definitely don't insult each other, call each other stupid and names and stuff like that. It's not helpful. And don't degrade other people. You can obviously you can disagree with me. You can say these women were foolish, but just don't call them names and stuff. You say, but like, yeah, saying they could have easily left. I mean, if you think that, that's a reasonable argument. How easily they could have left based on the psychological pressure or otherwise is a reasonable counter. But you could say, well, they're adults. They're treated as adults. They in fact had the opportunity to leave. So the pressure wasn't all in their own head. So it shouldn't count. I mean, that's a credible argument. So just be nice. You can disagree with me. That's fine. Based on the assurances and a trusting friend, Jane Doe 10 agreed to talk to Jonathan. After exchanging a few texts, Jonathan called her and explains that she could shoot one video for $5,000 and the video would go to Australia. She asked whether anyone would see the video in the United States, and he replied, no, it's going to be on DVD that could not be replicated, and I'd love to see that technology. It was for a buyer living in Australia, a single guy. Did you say something tactical?
Oh, they've lied about other stuff, though, so... I mean, it is not outside the realm of possibility that they just made up technology.
Yeah, no. I don't think that technology exists. The movie industry would like to hear more if it does. She's willing to send new pictures because she told that she needed to show pictures to see if the guy was interested. Jane Doe 10 testified that McLean had told her the video was to be published on the internet. She had not spoken to Jonathan, but based on McLean and Jonathan's assurance, she agreed to do the shoot. Once the buyer had approved, they set up the shoot. Jane Doe 10 had previously done dancing and camming, which she described as face-to-face interaction with another person via a live feed. And someone chooses to talk to you, and basically you choose whether or not you have a tire on. You control the whole thing. Importantly, she testified she never interacted with someone in the United States on the cam site, saying you can block certain IP addresses with the company I worked with, so I blocked the United States and England. This part I'd like to talk to you about ExpressVPN, your VPN provider. Also, if Raid Shadow Legends is out there somewhere and wants me to shill for their video game, I just want you to know I'm available. Raid Shadow Legends, the all-new MMORPG that's breaking into the internet. Have you heard of it yet? How wonderful it is. You should download it today. On the day of the shoot, Jane Doe 10 met defendants at a hotel downtown. She met talent who introduced her to Garcia, and Rivia did makeup while Wolf set camera and lights. She asked numerous times to make sure the video would not be available in the United States, and 3 people were there that told me and confirmed that no one would ever see it. It was going to Australia. All 3 people reassured her. Jane Doe 10 was nervous, so while Rivia... This guy has a sense of humor too. I hope you're talking about me, so because I try to have a sense of humor, yes. Yeah. Jane Doe 10 was nervous, so while Rivia was doing makeup, Rivia confronted her saying, oh, don't worry, honey, he's going to love it, you're doing great, which Jane Doe 10 took to be a reference to the private collector in Australia. She also expressed to Wolf her concern about someone she sees doing video, but reassured her that would not happen. Garcia offered marijuana. She does not recall whether she accepted. Despite promising to pay $5,000 on the day of the shoot, after sending some pictures to the buyer, defendant said he would only pay $2,500 because she looked old and had bruises on her body. I guess this would fall into the negging category.
Yeah.
How old can you possibly look if you're between 18 and 22?
Yeah.
I look old.
I unfortunately look a little too young, so I get carded for things that you need to be 18 to buy. I'm 32. But whatever.
Yeah. Someone bloody Ramen says I already did it. Well, now I could say, well, if you don't pay me, I'm going to say mean things about your game, but that probably qualifies as extortion, so I won't say that. But, you know, maybe you want me to say nice things about your game again in the future. Or Lootbox, or Mancrate, or Indochino.com. I will definitely accept a sponsorship from Indochino. Just saying. I actually do like Indochino's products. I actually really do think they make good stuff. So I wouldn't feel bad about shilling for Indochino because I really do like their things. When defendants gave documents to sign, Wolf and Garcia told her it was just a contract between me and the buyer, just confidentiality stuff. Defendant instructed her to talk to her private collector, lie about the age, and disclose information about history, which she found distracting. After signing, she was instructed to read the script and told us just the same thing, just reading it out loud. Thereafter, the video began commencing. She asked to leave several times because the shoot dragged on for many hours. Wow. She asked to leave so she could get some food with a plan to leave and not return. Although no one overtly tried to intimidate her, they would not let her leave. I don't know exactly what that means. Like physically? Or like they just said no?
So you can have people stand in the way of the door. You can set up like equipment in front of the door, depending on like the angles. There are ways to psychologically make it feel like the person can't leave. They can just say like, no, you can't go. Like, what do you want for food? We'll get someone to bring it in. Why are you being so dramatic? Why are you being so picky? Like you start undermining them with that, like you're being really difficult right now. And that's, women hate being called difficult. And so there can be psychological pressure techniques in order to make women feel like they can't.
So you're
go.
saying that to
Even
get women to do what I want, all I have to do is call them difficult?
I really if that's the message that you take away from this stream.
Why are you being so difficult with me, Tactical?
Yeah, I can definitely see how if you have like 4 people in a room saying don't go and you're just that one person, it can be just the sheer numbers can add psychological pressure. Whether that counts as a legal defense or not, I'm not sure, but the reality is, you can feel that social pressure to stay.
Railway Hacker says, since you look old, thank you, Railway Hacker. That's super encouraging. I know I said it first, but still, what is the going rate for you to join a website in question? Well, show me the models I'll be working with and I'll let you know. But yeah, I'm probably available. Wow. At least I know the IP law that I'd be walking into. It's like, yeah, okay. Jane Doe 10 Learner's videos online when Jane Doe 1 contacted her as part of the investigation of the case. Interesting. She didn't know it was online until one of the other girls, as part of the investigation in this case, contacted her. That must have been one hell of a call. I got some bad news for you. She was in a state of panic, and when she began searching the internet, she went on Facebook and found her video posted on her mother's page. To her knowledge, her father's not aware of the video, though she's worried he will find out. She's not sure whether her mother knows, but she cannot bring herself to talk about it, especially because her mother's very religious. I assume it would have come up. Yeah. Him before Leonard covers the scandal? Yeah, maybe. We need a calendar. We can talk. That would be great. That would be great. Internet lawyer calendar. So it can be me, Leonard, Hogue, Nate, Viva, Rakita, Legal Eagle. If we can find YouTuber Law because he's disappeared off the face of the earth, we'll get him involved. So that's at least 10. We got the 10. That woman, what's her name? Christina Hall. She does one. So we can have a woman in this lawyers of internet calendar. And I don't know who our 12th will be, but I'm sure there's someone out there. So yeah, we got at least 10 men and 1 woman for our lawyers of 2021 calendar. Good times. The videos released online has impacted her relationship. One previous boyfriend tried to get him to sleep with her by threatening to release the video if he didn't sleep with him. Nice. Popat. But is Popat really an online? He's not really. I mean, he runs a blog and a Twitter, but he's not really. I don't know if he counts. Does Popat count?
He has 2 podcasts so one, the Left, Right, and Center, and another one, All the President's Lawyers. And he goes on CNN a lot.
I don't know. He doesn't do video. I don't know if he counts or not, but maybe that just makes him more alluring. So yeah, we can get Popat in here. Someone asked Popat if he wants to be part of a Lawyers of the Internet sexy calendar for charity or something. Tell him he can be Mr. August. I don't know. See if that works out. Yeah. Jane Doe 11 was finishing her last year in college in Tennessee when she responded to the email for modeling, hoping to earn money. She received an email from a website offering $5,000 to shoot lasting 30 minutes and of interactions, and promised nothing weird, kinky, or strange. We have several channels of distribution depending on the level of anonymity you wish to obtain. Steve Leto? I guess I didn't mention him. Yeah, so Steve Leto can be our 12th. You're right. That's a guy I didn't mention. Steve Leto. So yeah, he can be the 12th. Steve Leto. Good times. Yeah. Email Kurt@modelingwork.com. Sure. I'm not sure that domain's up anymore, but give it a shot. Jane Doe 11 spoke on the phone with Mike and a man with Australian accent and explaining the logistics. He told her it'd not be online, it'd be distributed DVD, and there was reference models I could speak with that he would provide. She asked questions to ensure she'd remain anonymous, and the video would not be online. He called and texted nearly every day until he agreed to do the shoot. Yeah. 10 men and 1 woman is exactly the ratio you want for a pinup calendar. It'll sell like gangbusters. I feel like I'm being mocked. Tactical.
Is this a surprise for you?
Yes.
Sue for fraud. I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh. I won't laugh.
I have feelings too. Yeah.
That was the most pathetic sniffle. Oh my goodness. You sniffle like my cat sniffle.
This is just let's build the ego of uncivil law today, isn't it? That's great. Pratt requested she send nude pictures and assured them they'd keep it confidential. Still unsure, Jane Doe 11 obtained names and contact information for 2 reference women, which she contacted by text. The first reference told her that she's done it before. I have nothing to worry about. It won't be online. They'll treat you so well. They'll treat you like a princess. If you want a Starbucks, you can get a Starbucks. I just want women everywhere to know that if they're having trouble finding a man, if they want a man who will buy them a Starbucks, I'm your guy. If there are sexy women out there who want Starbucks, I will buy you a Starbucks. For reals. She never said she had any issues. No one knows she's ever found out. She keeps on telling me it's only on DVD in Australia. She hasn't had any issues. She even went to give me her Instagram. I looked her up. She seemed normal, nothing uninteresting to me. Apparently, the way to women's hearts is through Starbucks. Maybe I should just hand out Starbucks and hand out gift cards with my name on them. Yeah. Second reference again confirms the video will not go online because she's not had any issues. She offered to FaceTime and talk, but Jane Doe 11 declined because she does not want references to see her face. She testified that texting with reference women and getting to see her social media was impactful because she's just looking normal, like she's continuing to do her life after the video. Upon arriving in San Diego, Jane Doe 11 was picked up by the airport. They reassured her it would not go online, she had nothing to worry about, and it would be quick and easy. In the hotel room, they offered her alcohol, which she declined. While they did her hair and makeup, the model arrived. He drank all the alcohol in the minibar, took some pills, which they told her were Viagra and Molly, and smoked marijuana. Riva reassured Jane Doe 11 that she'd done makeup for many girls who all had good experiences and she didn't need to worry. Garcia also confirmed the video would not be online. When Garcia handed her documents to sign, they emphasized they were in a hurry because her makeup took so long. They flipped through the pages quickly, pointing out different parts. It says, this is where it says, not online. Here's where we're not forcing you to do this. Your free will. Everything I've told you is in this document. By this time, Jane Doe estimated she had reassured the scope of the distribution more than 30 times. She trusted what she'd been told about the documents, and because he was berating her to sign them, she left quickly without reading. Defendants paid Jane Doe $5,000 and handed her a piece of paper to read to the camera, explaining, "Again, this is just to show that we don't have something pointed to your head. We're forcing you to do this." Trusting them, she did as she asked. For the interview, they asked her to act flirty and happy and asked several questions. Because she believed no one would see them, she answered them. In 2016, in the middle of her final exams, and that must have been super fun, Jane Doe 11 learned of her video was online when a friend texted her a screenshot of the video. Panicking, she quickly tried to justify what she'd done, explaining to her friend that said it would only be in Australia, and I only did it for money. She was so distraught that her friends were concerned that she may attempt to harm herself, so they stayed with her throughout the night and took her to school counseling service the next day. That must have also been a very interesting conversation. The video spread like wildfire. In fact, Jane Doe 11 learned from the school council president that everyone was watching it in the library. So much so the internet essentially crashed and the school had to shut it down. The school president also informed her the administration actually watched the video. They all congregated in a room to watch it. So I guess I make sure I didn't say the university name in the video. The following morning, Jane Doe 11 took the action to get the video removed from the internet. She started by stating Pratt, "This is not spam or a life or death situation. Please contact me." When he didn't respond, she sent another email that evening. "Please, I beg of you, I need the video down. My whole school found out, and the quicker it's down, the easier it will be for me and my parents will be less likely to pursue legal action. This may even be in the media and be completely terrible for me. My future's already ruined, and I see no reason to continue. Please help me survive. I'll wire back the money plus more. Help me, I beg of you." When she received no reply, she contacted an attorney who sent a detailed demand letter. Ultimately, defendants offered to take the video down for $15,000, but she decided not to accept the offer because the video had spread to so many other websites that paying to remove it from only one wouldn't accomplish much. Furthermore, she didn't agree to adhere to the agreement. After declining, Jane Doe 11 tried hiring another service to help her remove the content, which only worked for a day before everything she paid to remove had returned. Yeah. Jane Doe 11 testifies she's devastated to see the video on many websites, including most notably a website which described her in derogatory, vulgar language. To display the video had more than 9 million views. Soon, she learned that her name and personal information had been connected to her video and posted on numerous forums, along with her LinkedIn or Facebook profile. These anonymous users had also posted her brothers, sisters, and church's profile. Let them all harass you. Let's send to your family. Send to your pastor. Let's ruin your life. Such a comment made her question her desire to continue. When she returned to school for summer classes, another student sent her nude pictures of herself and attempted to break into her dorm room, which frightened her enough to call campus police. After deactivating her social media for a stretch of time in order to avoid harassment, she eventually reactivated accounts. Even using the most stringent privacy settings, she still received what she considers to be 100 harassing messages. The release of the video also impacted her personal relationships. Although her family's been very supportive, her boyfriend at the time was not. Shortly after shooting the video was released, she drove to meet him at his apartment. When she arrived, he was sitting on his couch with a glass of water and a firearm. When she walked into the room, he became hysterical, pointing the gun, threatening to kill them all, saying it would be her fault. Great. Jane Doe 11 testified the video being released online has a huge impact on her emotionally. As here 4 years later, it kills me inside. I've gone through major depression. I wanted to end it. I've isolated myself. I was afraid to show my face anywhere. It's consumed my brain. The court finds Jane Doe 11 credible. And with that, we have covered 30 additional pages of this 187-page document. So we will end the stream on page 78 of 187. So we are not even halfway through all this legal stuff, and we've done yet another 2 hours. So this is going to take some time.
Yeah, I think what's difficult for me is that there are a lot of women out there who are willing to try porn with and they're fully informed of what's going to happen. And it's not like it's super hard to find women who are willing to give it a try. It's that these people specifically wanted women with no experience and that would not choose to go into the adult entertainment industry. And so, in order to get that very specific look and that very specific person, they had this very premeditated, researched, planned out action to coerce the women. And that to me is like, you could just do above board porn, you know, like you could just do it with consenting and willing women, but instead they're going through 20 million steps to put intense pressure on women who normally wouldn't consider this a career path.
Yeah. So I agree with all that. In response to its guest question for a link to the document, I don't know if it's available online. I assume it is. I got it through Law 360, a subscription service for lawyers, and I have it downloaded on my local drive. I don't have a link to the document, but if you Google the relevant phrases, the website name, district court decision, judgment, you probably will find it online. It's probably online at this point, but I don't have a specific link to it. This is on my internal hard drive. So yeah. Yeah. So yeah, but that's the end of the stream for now. Let's see. There's some questions. Lint says, here's an interesting question. If you do a video, the way she uses outside your contract, are you able to claim some kind of personal copyright? No, and it's probably not copyright infringement. We've seen case law on this point. If you have a contract to use media and you exceed the contract, the relevant legal issue is not copyright infringement. The relevant issue is breach of contract. There's case law on that point. I don't know if that's a universal rule, but that's, as far as I'm aware, a universal rule that if you have an agreement, the issue is breach of contract, breach of license, not copyright infringement. Of course, every lawyer will claim both, and you know that one's going to get thrown out, but you still claim both in the initial step. So that is the answer to that question. And also, the copyright belongs to the person who fixed the media. So it belongs to the videographer, not to the people in the video. There's no copyright interest in being a person in the video, without more. Unless you're engaging in the actual creation of it, in terms of it being recorded, which you're not in this sense. So there's no copyright interest in being a subject. So you can't get a copyright interest. You get a right of privacy publicity issue, but then of course that whole thing. Now, I think part of the judgment here was to give these girls the copyright. So I think part of the judgment was these girls now have the copyright. So now if they now have the copyright as part of the judgment, they could issue takedown notices because they now have the copyright. So there's that. So yeah. Let's see what else. Can I make a Google Drive and post the link after the stream is over? Maybe.
I'll talk to you about it later, Kurt, but maybe don't do that.
Okay, fair enough. Point is, women suffer a lot of damage and coerced. Yeah.
Yeah, we have. So its guest was. It kind of sounded like he was showing admiration for this scheme and that he wanted to try it, and he was asking for the document in order to find the names of the women, of the Jane Does, and expose them.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be the first person by any means. There's been many message boards trying to figure out who these women are, and I'm not gonna contribute to that myself. They're Jane Does as far as the court is concerned, and I see no particular reason to recite names the court didn't recite, which is one of the reasons I said I found it a little bit odd, at least, that there was a witness who had filmed who was being named by name by the court. I'm like, well, it's in a legal document issued by the court, so it seems a little strange, but okay. I mean, the document is public record, right? Of course it's public record. It's a decision from the court. It's the manifest public record, so that seems fine. But yeah, I'm not going to assist with that. Anyways, that is the end of the stream for now. If you've not already done so, give me a like. We will resume this at some point in the future. We still have, 109 pages to go. We haven't gotten into the legal analysis yet. We're still well entrenched in the factual background. In 78 pages, we're still well entrenched in facts. We haven't even gotten to discussion of law yet. So we're still like, here's all the factual stuff that happened. What are the legal ramifications of all this factual stuff that happened? We haven't even begun to discuss yet in terms of the stream. So that's super exciting. But
in the future, I would love your input over, like, right now what we're seeing is that the stories are very consistent. That this is a pattern, and it was premeditated actions by the production company, and that this was obviously a well thought out scheme. And I'm wondering if that consistency contributes to an elevated amount of damages compared to if only, one or two women had talked about sort of one course of technique, and then another couple women had talked about a different course of technique, but they all seem to be repeating the same technique. So do you think, increase the damages and the punishment? Like, if one woman had described this.
Oh, no. I agree with you. The fact that you have multiple women testifying to essentially the same thing goes to the pattern of conduct, right? And also rapidly decreases the probability that any one of them validates them, because, everyone's validating each other. It doesn't make it more true that there's more accusations. Each accusation could be false, but by the same token, it's like, well, you have a lot of people testifying under oath. It's like, well, we're seeing a pattern of conduct. These things match up, so it's credible. So there's that. Yeah. So yeah, and future message to my mods. This is not the Lawful Masses Discord, so we do not have a pansy banning policy here. We have a full-throated banning policy here. So if you think users are behaving inappropriately, you don't need a specific rule. Unlike other places, you can just ban people or remove their message because you think they're being a jerk. The fact that I have a rule about certain things, you can also just exercise your discretion. You're mods for a reason. I trust you. So it's all good. Until later, my friends, this has been Uncivil Law. I hope you have a good day. Until later, cheers and goodbye.